Welcome to Half 2-4. Today in the show, Manchester City is preparing a lawsuit against the Spanish candidate who wanted to take Erling Haaland to Real. The Real PR machine of Fabrizio Romano artificially sells Bradley Barcola to the PL through a 100 million masterstroke in Paris, while UEFA is furious because Italy did not qualify for the World Cup and officially approved a new secret playoff regulation to help the top national team. Also today, the first transfer proposal of Enzo Maresca for the midfield line of the Citizens and Marcus Rashford to enter Miami training with Messi. We talk about all this and much more right now. A fierce boardroom war has begun in European football for Erling Haaland and Rodri. The candidate for the presidency of Madrid's Real, Enrique Riquelme, made a sensational statement naming these two leaders of Manchester City as his main transfer targets in case of victory in the elections. Moreover, Riquelme guaranteed all fans the invitation of a superstar manager desired by all Madridistas. However, the reaction of the English side and the entourage of the Norwegian was instant and maximally harsh. Let us look into the details of this loud scandal, the official statement of the Haaland family, and the lawsuit threats from the Manchester bosses. Enrique Riquelme decided to go all in. The political figure publicly promised that he would make Rodri and Erling Haaland players for the Whites, and also added that Jose Mourinho is not in his plans because he will bring the best coach in the world. In response to this loud pre-election performance, the management of Manchester City issued an official statement where it called all the stories from Spain absolutely false. The Mancunians clearly emphasized that there is no chance for this transfer, and the Norwegian's contract lacks any buyout clause that would allow this move. Due to the deliberate use of the football player's image for political purposes, the English giant is considering the possibility of filing a lawsuit against the Spanish candidate. The internal atmosphere in Manchester remains completely calm. The management does not expect the departure of the striker this summer, as Erling gave no hints of a desire to change clubs and remains a key figure in the long-term project under the leadership of Enzo Maresca. To finally extinguish the fire in the press, the player's father, Alf-Inge Haaland, and agent Rafaela Pimenta came forward with a denial. All very entertaining, but not true. We wish all the best for both candidates in the Real Madrid elections. The attempt by Enrique Riquelme to ride on the names of Haaland and Rodri is a classic pre-election trick to win votes, which we have repeatedly seen in Spain. However, this time the candidate clearly went too far, hitting a hard wall in the form of Manchester City lawyers. The position of Erling's family and the statement from Manchester prove that no one is going to let the leaders go. I think instead of loud transfers, Riquelme will receive a serious trial, and Enzo Maresca will preserve his core. And inside the very boardrooms of Manchester City, a big summer transfer operation to reinforce the central line has begun. The Citizens made their first official proposal regarding the transfer of the 23-year-old midfielder of Nottingham Forest, Elliot Anderson. The first move by Enzo Maresca forced the bosses of the tricky trees to tense up, and they immediately responded with a refusal. Let us look into the financial details. What specific sum Manchester offered, why Forest blocked the first attempt, and what boardroom games the clubs are playing right now. Elliot Anderson, who at one time moved to Nottingham from Newcastle and has a valid long-term contract, became the main squad target for Manchester City as the club looks for a quality performer for rotation and renewal of the midfield line. British insiders note that the first proposal of the Citizens amounted to £35 million. The management of Nottingham Forest blocked this offer because it considers the sum undervalued, and the player himself is an ironclad performer in the starting lineup. However, the bidding is only beginning. According to British media data, the tricky trees are ready to talk about the sale of Anderson, but officially demand at least £100 million as they see him in the same price category as Declan Rice. For Manchester City, this transfer is important not only from a tactical point of view, but also to close the quota of homegrown players of English football before the start of the Champions League. Negotiations between the clubs are continuing, and it is expected that the Manchester bosses will improve the financial parameters of their proposal in the near future to break the resistance of Nottingham. My opinion? City's interest in Elliot Anderson looks like a very interesting and well thought out move. The guy has an excellent age, wonderful pressing resistance, and fits perfectly for trademark ball control. The fact that Nottingham rejected the first £35 million is absolutely logical, as they are trying to squeeze the maximum out of the buyers. I think a compromise will be found at around £85 million, and Anderson will eventually move to the Etihad. A loud scandal has flared up in European boardrooms. UEFA officially changed the playoff rules for major tournaments because, due to the old format of blind drawing, top national teams, including Italy and Denmark, flew past the World Cup 2026. Let us briefly look into the boardroom reform. Until now, the hosts of the playoff finals were determined randomly. Because of this, teams from the first pot played decisive matches away. The Italians lost to Bosnia in Zenica, and the Danes lost to the Czech Republic in Prague, losing tickets to the World Forum. Bosnia and the Czech Republic are already preparing for matches in the groups of the World Cup. UEFA officials are furious with the loss of big brands and approved a new regulation. Now teams from the first pot are guaranteed to play on their home field, both the semifinal and the playoff final. My opinion, this reform is a classic protection of money and big markets by UEFA. On one hand, a higher seeding should give an advantage, but the romance of football for modest national teams is now under threat. And what do you think, friends? Is the decision to guarantee top national teams a home field fair, or was the blind draw better? Marcus Rashford officially blew up social media by posting footage from his individual training sessions in Florida. While fans are actively discussing his physical form, a loud inside has flared up in the media space. Is Rashford really moving to Inter Miami, owned by David Beckham? In reality, behind this beautiful media background hides a fierce boardroom war of European giants. The future of the attack leader of the England national team remains completely open. Let us find out what the Englishman is doing at the training base of Lionel Messi, why the Catalan side Barcelona delays the buyout, and how London's Arsenal plans to punish the Spaniards for their financial modesty. Let us look at things soberly, because Marcus spent a splendid season. Being on loan at Barcelona, he helped the team win La Liga, recording 14 goals and 14 assists in 46 matches. The Spaniards have a clear option to buy the player from Manchester United for €30 million. However, they are in no hurry to activate it due to a serious lack of finances, as they have just spent $70 million on Anthony Gordon and are parallelly trading for Julian Alvarez. The Catalans came up with a clever plan to beg the Mancunians for another loan for the season, so that in 2027 they can take the striker for pennies when his contract with United comes to an end. The bosses from Manchester flatly refuse and demand a permanent transfer already this summer, and into this financial gap, Arsenal instantly squeezed. Mikel Arteta is looking for a replacement for the unstable Martinelli, and if Barca does not close the issue by the 15th of June, the Londoners are ready to intercept the player. Also, the Spurs, Aston Villa, and the Munich side Bayern are interested in him. And while the boardrooms are boiling, Rashford works in the USA. The head coach of the England national team, Thomas Tuchel, gave a strict instruction to the players to arrive in advance in the American time zones, to acclimatize to the humidity and heat before the start of the World Cup 2026. Marcus arrived earlier than everyone else and is training at the base of Inter Miami under a personal program led by Colin Little, a coach from the United system, which proves his close connection with his native club. I think the rumors about a move to Inter Miami are a beautiful media screen, but in reality, Rashford is now considering only Barca. After a powerful season in Spain and winning the La Liga title, giving him away for €30 million is a real gift. If Barcelona continues its games and skimps on money, Mikel Arteta will receive a splendid reinforcement for Arsenal. For United, it is important to close the sale forever, and the resolution of this drama will come already by the 15th of June. Friends, if you have watched up to this point, then subscribe to the channel. It is not hard for you and pleasant for us. And while you are subscribing, we move on. In the corridors of European football, a splendid transfer multi-move is unfolding involving PSG, Liverpool, and the main insider of the planet, Fabrizio Romano. If you carefully analyze his recent publications, it becomes obvious. Romano subtly warms up the market in the interests of top agents. The French giant is trying to intercept the main transfer target of the Merseysiders Yan Diomande from RB Leipzig. However, the English are preparing a symmetrical response and have already set their sights on the superstar of the Parisians. Let us look into the behind-the-scenes games, the real value of the players, and why Bradley Barcola became a bargaining chip in this boardroom war. PSG and Liverpool are conducting fierce negotiations regarding Yan Diomande, whose price tag the German club set at the mark of 100 million euros. The football player himself, in a recent interview with the publication L'Equipe, directly stated that he has been a passionate fan of Paris since childhood. Paris Saint-Germain is a team I've loved since I was a child. My father supports Paris Saint-Germain, and it's a team I admire as a football fan. It would be a pleasure for me to come and play here with one of the biggest clubs. While the player is focused on the World Cup, the boardrooms in France are working at full capacity. In case of buying Diomande, a wild overabundance on the attacking flanks will arise in Paris, so Bradley Barcola will be forced to change his registration. The 23-year-old winger is already on the short list of the Merseysiders as a potential successor to Mohamed Salah. However, Romano instantly issued a new inside, dragging London's Arsenal into the list of contenders. And the Gunners are mentioned here not by accident at all. After winning the Premier League and reaching the Champions League final, Mikel Arteta is looking for a quality upgrade for the left flank. Gabriel Martinelli spent an unstable season, Leandro Trossard is not getting any younger, and both have only a year left on their contracts. Arsenal has already contacted the player's agent, Moussa Sissoko, studied the financial appetites, and made it clearly understood that it is ready to act. Moreover, the publication L'Equipe names London as the most likely direction for the Frenchman. That is precisely why Fabrizio Romano posted his tweet. It is a clear signal for Liverpool and Arsenal. Guys, let's move. The player is ready for a transfer. Agent Sissoko masterfully uses this real interest of two English super clubs to pump up the price for his client and force them to act faster while Paris closes the deal for Diomande. So, before us is a classic boardroom domino. PSG takes Diomande, and Fabrizio Romano, with his leak about the interest of Arsenal and Liverpool, artificially sells Bradley Barcola, working off the order of agent Moussa Sissoko for the sake of future exclusives and millions of reach. This sophisticated PR machine forces the English giants to be nervous because of the competition, capitally pumps up the price tag on the Frenchman, and will force the buyer to lay out a solid bag of money. And what do you think, friends? Who will ultimately win this fierce race for Barcola, Mikel Arteta, or the Merseysiders? And is it worth buying into the games of insiders at all? Leave your comments under this video. French Marseille found itself on the verge of a grand financial and squad collapse. The French holder of the Champions League Cup of 1993 risks boardroom relegation from European competitions due to wild losses that completely violated the rules of financial fair play. Despite the appointment of the new head coach, Bruno Genesio, an immediate sale of leaders awaits the club to save itself from bankruptcy. The main star asset of the Phoenicians, Mason Greenwood, is already packing his bags and is the first to leave the team. Let us look into the harsh figures of the French audit and find out exactly where the English winger is transferring for 50 million euros. Let us look at things soberly, because the situation as of now for Marseille is critical. According to the reports of the financial regulator, the net losses of the club over the last 3 seasons amounted to an astronomical 157 million euros, of which 105 million euros fell on the season 2024-2025. This is a direct violation of the agreement with UEFA, which allowed a limit of only 60 million euros. the bosses justify themselves with the crisis of television rights in France. The official meeting of the European boardrooms where this case was considered took place on the 2nd of June. Currently, the legal department of UEFA has taken a pause to issue a final verdict. But if the arguments of the defense are found unconvincing, the team will be officially excluded from the Europa League for the next season. Against the background of this chaos, the club still closed the deal with Bruno Genesio. The specialist will sign a contract until June 2028 with an option to extend for another season. However, Genesio instantly loses his main striking force. Due to financial difficulties and a smeared end of the season, Mason Greenwood is officially put up for transfer. As the authoritative journalist Nicolo Schira reports, the 24-year-old winger has already given full consent to a transfer to the Italian side Roma, agreeing on a contract until 2031. Currently, the Romans are preparing their first official proposal. Marseille steadfastly demands 50 million euros for the Jamaica national team player. Since half of this sum, namely 50% under the terms of the previous agreement, will be taken by Manchester United. Parallelly, clubs from Saudi Arabia are actively pressing the situation, ready to shower the Phoenicians with live money, which is very profitable for balancing the French budget. I think the situation around Marseille is a classic example of financial suicide due to unskilled management. The invitation of Bruno Genesio is a not bad move. But without European Cups and with a total sale of the squad, it will be incredibly difficult for him. The sale of Greenwood for 50 million euros is vitally necessary, although due to the appetites of Manchester United, the French will receive only half. The move of Mason to Roma will lift Serie A, but the Phoenicians will have to capitally tighten their belts simply to survive in League One. Friends, thank you for watching. And if you liked the episode, do not spare a like and subscribe.